Dempsey.
Here.
Fournier.
Here.
Crop.
Here.
McGarity. Rick.
Here.
Yor.
Okay. It's a work session. Do we want to excuse anyway? It's more of a,
I make a motion to excuse McGarity and Yor.
Support.
questions, comments? Call the roll, please.
Calhoun.
Yes.
Dempsey.
Yes.
Fournier.
Yes.
Crop.
Yes.
Rick.
Yes.
Okay, this is the portion of the meeting where we invite the public to address the commission. All that we ask is that you come to the microphone, give us your full name, residential address, and you abide by our 3-minute rule. If anyone would like to address the commission at this time, please come forward. You're the only one here, Mickey.
Everybody look at one person.
All right, seeing none, we'll move to city business, and we are here for the South Main Building Assessment. And we will first start with Mr. Shipman.
First thing I want to do is thank Tom for filling in tonight. I know we double booked, so appreciate it, Tom. No problem. So you all knew that we were doing an assessment and feasibility study for 20 South Main. So Partners in Architecture did that. They've got a lot of experience, not only building fire stations, but city halls in combination, fire and police station and city halls. So, and then being right in town was an obvious choice. So with us tonight is David Gasson and Nathan Ringholz from Partners in Architecture. And so I saw the preliminary, about a week ago. It wasn't finished yet. So I'm excited to see the finished product. They really did a great job. They got very in-depth in a very short period of time. I mean, they didn't have a lot of time to do this. And I really like what I saw so far. And I liked the fact that when you price this out, that you didn't leave anything to guess, right? You've got everything you could possibly think of in there, including contingencies for everything. So appreciate that. So I will turn it over to you guys, and it's all yours.
Okay, thank you, sir. And good to see you all tonight. It's been a while since I've been before you, so I appreciate the opportunity to share with you what we've done over the last 5 weeks. And as Greg said, Nate is here with me. He was project manager, and a lot more than that. He got into the detail as well in terms of the project. So we're going to cover, should I speak right into this for recording purposes?
Yeah.
There we go.
All right, I'll do my best. So what you have before you is a document that we took from the preliminary and kind of polished it up. And we also finished up some details, some things that were kind of outstanding in terms of energy consumption and those sorts of things. So we have some data to share with you on that. Also, there are 3 documents that end the seats got, and Greg as well, that are going to be part of the final package, but we just printed 2. We're not going to go through that in any detail tonight, but if you wanted to kind of come through that, you can. The 11 by 17 is what we're going to focus on, and there's a lot more to it than that, but that's kind of the presentation material of our efforts, and it's also on the digital screen, which I don't know if that just becomes part of the recording of the meeting. I'll refer to it a little bit. I'll try to kind of guide us through this document as we go. And also, I'd like to, if it's okay with you guys, just have this as interactive as you would like it to be. I'm going to cover material that might be a question or 2 that you want to ask at that moment. You don't have to wait till the end. By all means, just kind of let's make it a conversation, because we're sharing an effort that hopefully you'll want to know more than I'm presenting. So the table of contents is generally what we're going to cover tonight, ending up with the budget. But we're going to kind of go through a progress of the assessment, the report on the assessment, the programming in terms of what are the needs the city has identified and we've recorded, and how did we take those needs and come up with some solutions. And the solutions will include a site plan or multiple site plans, building floor plans for first and second floor, as well as an alternative, and that was primarily for budgeting purposes, and there's always another way to look at it. So we have a ABC, good, better, best, however you want to look at it. A variety, because there's no one solution fits all. And then there's some graphic imaging to kind of give you an idea of what we were thinking in terms of how do we identify the city in a new location amongst other buildings, and also those elements of construction kind of work their way into the budget too. So it could be the good, better, best, and we're in the middle in terms of the materials we were thinking, and that'll be evident when we look at what the kind of the graphic character of the building is. So the first couple slides are really for background, not so much for our discussion, but you know where the building is, you know where you're located, so we're giving it some context, so when this report is looked at in 3 years or 4 years or somewhere down the road, they kind of know what we're talking about.
And just, I'm just going to interrupt you for a second.
Sure.
I think I mentioned it before, but leading up to this, to get this information, they provided a survey for all the pertinent staff at City Hall. Then they came and did a walkthrough in the fire department of both buildings, and then they interviewed the employees and department heads while they were here to find out, you know, exactly what our needs were before they dove into this. So just wanted to throw that in.
Thank you, Greg. And I'll cover that a little bit more as a process element of tonight. So the first couple of sheets of photographs are about the existing building, the exterior and the interior. What you'll know, hopefully you maybe even had a chance to walk through the building yourself. It's in fairly good shape. It's modernized and it's got some materials that are durable. So there's not a lot in there that we couldn't say we could reuse. There are, you know, Nate's going to cover some of the systems element in terms of the assessment, but just give an overview of what the building is today and what we're working with in terms of how we can envision it being your city hall and your fire department and your sheriff department. So that's kind of just a really introduction to something you already know about. The assessment, I'm going to ask Nate, who's done the walkthrough, to give you a really high level kind of an opinion of what the building is and what our opportunities and challenges are.
Hello, everybody. My name is Nate Ringholz with Partners in Architecture. So I'm just going to very briefly walk through the existing conditions of the 20 South Main building. So I'll kind of hit some of the red flags, some of the ongoing maintenance issues very briefly, and you can ask questions if you desire. But the general building size is approximately 21,000 or 26,100 square feet between 2 floors. As a comparison between the fire station and City Hall, you're currently equipped with approximately 41,060 square feet across both of those buildings. So it's about, it's not quite half, but approximately half the size. And David will get into some of the later building areas, but basically we're looking at maybe a 20 or 30% square footage reduction when we start looking at the new construction work. So that'll result in some ongoing savings. Generally speaking, the building is in pretty good condition, as David said. There are some ongoing minor issues like building cleanliness and an insect infestation and things like that that have merely cropped up from the fact that Oakland University is no longer actively occupying the building, as far as I can tell. So it's the sort of thing that wouldn't happen in a building that's occupied. In terms of the red flags for the 20 South Main building, the one big one is a roof replacement. That really needs to happen if you're to move into this building, and you need to do it at the time of move-in with the construction work. There's already an active roof leak, which you might have noticed in the building if you walked through it. And that really needs to be repaired immediately before construction can even start, if you choose to purchase the building, because that's observedly getting worse because it's such a significant roof leak.
And there's a detailed assessment, particularly of the roof in that 8.5 by 11 document.
Yep.
Near the end, it goes into quite depth about, you know, really what the issues are there.
And why the roof needs to be replaced. But basically, the roof is well over 20 years old, which is the average minimum lifespan that you can expect to get out of a modern roof. So that's basically the essence of it. The other ongoing maintenance costs that you can expect to find in the building are related to some sealant repairs and things like that. The window system in particular is quite old, and that may be a future expense the city might want to consider, but you don't have to replace it immediately to move into the building. It would just be something that would reduce maintenance costs moving forward if you were to save up for it. It would improve on energy savings, it would reduce water infiltration and minor little irritants. In terms of the masonry and all of that, that's all in pretty good condition. There's a few areas where you can see that sealants are aged, so if we were to move in, we would peel all the sealants off the building and replace those. And then there's a few other minor issues that stem from the age of the building. Some of the door hardware on the building is no longer code compliant, and when we go through the change of use to the new occupants, we would be required to upgrade some of that. Interior on the left, you'll see the roof leak. This photo was taken on our first site visit. It has since gotten much worse than this. Just so if you do purchase the building, one of the first things the city should do is go get a roofer out there to fix that.
Real quick, EPDM, that's just the roof in general?
That's a type of roofing membrane. It's black rubber.
Oh, okay.
There's other roofing products out there. EPDM is by far one of the most common, so it's not a non-standard roof or anything. It's just old. It needs to be replaced.
Thanks, okay.
Exterior-wise, again, the building isn't in terrible condition. It's pretty good. The exterior paving is starting to show its age. There's some landscaping damage. Some of the exterior benches are showing signs of age and damage. And we also noted that there were some exterior building utilities that'll have to get moved if we go ahead with the fire station addition. And then this page just addresses some of the initial building code analysis that we performed essentially what we did here was we just analyzed what we're allowed to do in modern building codes against what the current conditions of the building are, and then we compared that against what we would like to do for the city hall and fire station. So that gets into floor planning and exterior design decisions.
Okay, thanks, Nate. Well, one of the things as we ended there on codes, something unique that we have done probably within the last 10 years, 5 or 6 previously completed, now currently working on 5 or 6 others, which is a storm shelter for essential services buildings, EOCs, fire, police, that sort of thing. And we have done many of them, but now it became a code requirement as of April. So we kind of hit the ground running, kind of including them in our fire station type projects, and with the sheriff and fire, and a renovation project at City Hall, seeing that they're within 1,000 feet of each other. Now, that component, storm shelter, a place of refuge for occupants, would be in compliance for all of the building, including City Hall occupants. So that's a component the code now requires that we would include. And you could kind of argue it a couple different ways. Our position is we're a proponent of adding it as an essential service building in an urban area, downtown, etc. There's a lot of good reasons to do it for this kind of building, and now the code is kind of saying you have to do it. So that's part of what we're including or contemplating as part of your new building. So.
And that all stems from the trend of increasing extreme weather events.
Yeah, exactly, which we have seen many of. I'm going to go to the next slide after that, which basically says mission statement. And Greg mentioned earlier that the process was we interviewed some user groups and did a questionnaire across all departments, got their feedback on their space, what they do, their role with the city, and use that for our information in terms of guiding us through the programming process. And when we start, we want to have a couple other guardrails. And one is a mission and goals and objectives to support that mission. I won't kind of read through it here, but the intention obviously is to, for the city hall and fire and sheriff as well, is to have a building or a place that your citizens are easily oriented to what they're trying to find. So you'll see that throughout all 5 goals and objectives for fire and police. Create an active environment for the building in terms of bringing it downtown and updating it and really providing a safe place for not just those that work there, but the citizens that visit there. So that's kind of the overriding theme. Each one has their own nuance, but those are guide points for us when we're finding a solution as well as the program. So the program itself is really a written written document, if you change the page, I have a kind of a summary of program areas, and those were kind of boiled down from about 5 or 6 pages of spreadsheets, which were a space type, your current area of that space type, if you had it, some of the spaces you don't have, that you really should have moving into the future. And then the number of people that would be in the space, the kind of furniture that would be in the space, like an office desk, workstation, work area, whatever it might be, and then a projected space in square feet, what you would need to have. And we looked at that in terms of a 30-year picture. What will you need now is one thing, but what you will need in about 30 years needs to be contemplated as well. So we have a 30-year picture of your programmatic needs in terms of space. And the spaces relate to each other, whether they're public or private or secure or not. We kind of put all that into this matrix of information. Then we develop a program. So the highlight of it is we have public spaces, administrative space, clerk space, assessor, community development, finance and accounting, treasury, purchasing, sheriff, and building and staff support areas. And that really is break room, receiving areas, storage rooms, infrastructure, things like mechanical, electrical, IT, and data kind of thing. So all those big titles have about 10 other things below them that equals those square feet. And then we came up with about 17,300 for your city functions. In addition to that, there's circulation and infrastructure space, like thicknesses of walls aren't included in your space, but you need it. Inside walls, outside walls, or duct shafts, that kind of thing. So there's more square feet than that. So, and you'll see at the end, there'll be a delta between the program, let's say 10 square feet, and the building is 12 square feet. Well, why do we have that discrepancy? It's that infrastructure, circulation kind of space. So don't get worried or tripped up with the math differences. It's a necessary thing of a building.
So the city hall is about, total program area is about 8,000 square feet less than what they currently have in this building.
Yeah. So, and that's accomplished, thank you for that point, Nate. So that's accomplished by, this building was something else and is transformed over the years. But the other part to that, and that's what I wanted to take from Nate's comment, is there's a creation of efficiency in working with that building as compared to this building, multi-levels, and maybe there's not the connection between one function and another function. You have to have spaces in between. So we were able to create some efficiencies, and I think the number was about 22% when we looked at the comparison between current and projected. And the projected also has additional spaces they don't currently have right now, but we know that you will grow into them, or they're needed right now, you just don't have them. So we created some efficiencies. The next one, same kind of thing, mission statement, a little bit more unique to a fire station than City Hall. The underlying ones are the same. I'll just point out one, number 4, utilize advanced planning and enhanced technologies to optimize operations. So obviously a fire station is very different than a City Hall. Technologies are a big part of how they operate, and operational efficiency is key, vital to their ability to respond. So that enhanced planning is a very important part, and that comes through interaction, and we're at a very high level right now. We didn't have a lot of work sessions with them, but we did meet with the chief, walk through the station, got some good ideas. But based on our experience with doing fire stations, we were able to fill some gaps and make some, I think, very wise assumptions at this point. Again, we're looking to make a very educated opinion of what your needs are and take those needs into a solution and tell you if all of that fits into that building. And that's kind of what the end goal of this process is. I can tell you right now, it's a good fit. On the next slide we included, which is basically a graphic of like the programming I mentioned. We're looking at that as a guide to help us through some solutions. These are 2 other very accepted, recognized guides, and we use a couple others too. One is the UFC, Unified Facilities Criteria. It's a Department of Defense guideline for such things as essential services, particularly fire. Helps us with relationship planning, size requirements, etc. Same thing with NFPA, it's a guide, but it deals more in the health and safety side of things. So that plus the programming information from the user groups is our guide to help us get to a solution. So we included that so you understand some of the background of what we're using to do the planning. The next slide is kind of the program areas, again, the square feet. The main areas are public space, significantly less than what the city side of things, if you recall, that number is much bigger. And I think it's a real bonus, and I wanted to point that out, is fire has some of the same needs that the city does in terms of space. Council chambers, multi-purpose room, elections, all that kind of stuff that happens here. Fire has a need for training. Training happens in a lot of different ways. It could be 5 or 6 guys on shift doing a training session at a team room kind of thing, or it could be more regional, department-wide, where it needs a room of this size. So with a building where you're including a couple different uses, like city hall and fire, you can monopolize or capitalize, on a space that one would need and not have two. So that number is much less than it would be if I was just doing a fire station by itself. So about 1,000 square feet now becomes an efficient factor for bringing them together. So that's why that number is a lot lower. Office and support areas, basically the administration side of things. Built into that is some spare office, I'll call it. But as you advance in your fire station, you may need a training officer, a couple of other kind of offices that you don't currently have. And so that's built into there too. Same thing with living. We have 5 dorms. I'm just kind of itemizing that because I remember it. 5 dorms. You don't have 5 firefighters in there right now. It's a 4-person station, so that's futuristic. And that overall living thing is done more modern and more towards the current trend than what is currently in the station. There's a lot of different ways to do it. Not saying this is done. It's done a certain way right now, but when we really get into detail, we get kind of rehashed again with the user groups and the fire department. Right down to the building support areas, you can see that number is, again, much less than what it was for cities. Same kind of thing. We capitalized on efficiency of having multiple functions together. So that station, 13,200, is much less square feet than you would see if I were doing a station as a standalone building.
Dave, can I ask you, with
Sure.
the fire, when you're doing the fire department, are you also looking down the road for separation if we have a female firefighter?
Great question. So I didn't go into that detail, but when I talked about dorms, so the current trend in dorms is gender neutrality.
Right.
Again, which could bring some efficiency in square footage. So there's a locker room. This is a locker room. So all the lockers are in here, male, female, no separation. But you don't change in the locker room in today's most of today's stations. You take your personal gear and you go into a private restroom
Okay.
that may be right behind that door, and you do your thing. You come back out. So that square footage of separating male and female, bringing them together, is a efficiency factor for a fire station. And then the dorms are typically now a single room, door closes, locks, and you're in your room. You're not in a bunk room, although some stations, I think like this one, is more of an open
Right.
dorm room. And there are, even new stations do that. We were doing one for St. Clair Shores where that's what they wanted. They eventually moved a little towards the middle, but the initial thing was, no, we just want a big room for everybody to sleep together. And after showing some examples, and they network with the chiefs, all network, and they kind of found some wisdom in doing it a little bit more gender neutral, I say. But a great
you.
question, Barbara. Appreciate that.
Thinking of switching careers on us, Bart?
Pardon?
Thinking of switching careers on us?
You never know.
So going to the graphics now, we have a site plan, as I mentioned, as we started. This one is a site plan more global, not just right around the building, but a little bit of the road network on how you get to it. I mean, you're familiar with there. We're not changing any roads, but we had to find the appropriate way to separate circulation, vehicle circulation, as well as walkers. The fire station situates itself where you have land. And the one thing you'll know, we didn't do it orthogonally to the existing building. We kind of tweaked it a little bit as an angle, made it perpendicular to Main Street, which is a good thing. But we did that with more purpose than just perpendicular to Main Street. We wanted to have the parking lot, which is the main place where people are going to come to the building from, up to the north or southwest. We tweaked it so the entry to the building would have some separation from the fire component that's being added to it. We even reoriented how you get into the building. Right now, you really walk more northeasterly from the parking lot to the entry, if you know that walkway out there. So we kind of rotated that so you're now coming from the northwest to the building, really to separate so people don't think, well, am I going to the fire station or am I going to City Hall? And we did a little bit more placemaking. You can see that circular plaza there with one of the monuments from current City Hall site would move there, flagpole, and a little seating area, a little bit of placemaking. Make it not just I'm going to City Hall through a sidewalk, but a little bit of a juncture. I've left the parking lot, I've entered the Memorial Plaza, now I'm going to City Hall. And we've also looked at the vegetation around City Hall, and that, I'm calling that City Hall. Remove some trees right at the front edge, so you're really going to be able to see the building. It's really about identifying the building, one, identifying the entry point, two. We don't want them to get confused and walk into the fire station. And that's the whole thing about tweaking some angles there. We also looked at where would they, how does parking change? Because right in that area, there's handicap parking. Obviously, we wanted to put appropriate amount. Again, I think it's a growing number no matter what code says. More is better in terms of handicap parking. So we put that in a gained situation. So it's not a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit over there. It's all together with an identified walkway to get to the entry point of the plaza. And then put sheriff to the other side. So the sheriff wouldn't commingle, not that it's a bad thing, but we wanted them to have an identified location to get to and also identified parking. And we say covered parking. That wasn't part of the program. We didn't interact with the sheriff yet. But we have in many other cases, and I know that covered parking is one of the things they would desire. So we showed it that way.
Another question. How close is this now to the old Macomb Daily building?
In feet? I
Can you
don't
see?
really know.
Isn't it this?
Yeah,
Is it?
Isn't it that right there?
yeah, that is,
Yeah,
that's
I
the
think
tower part of it, yeah.
Okay, so, just trying to
I-
visualize, I can't,
It doesn't, it will not create a congested feeling. Right now, when you go down Walnut, that little section of
Yeah.
Walnut, it feels very intimate, it feels nice. The tree canopy presents it a pedestrian scale. So I think it kind of feels kind of nice through there, but
Okay.
not congested at all.
I can go back to the photos real quick if you would like to see them.
oh, that's okay, I can look after, but I was just curious myself, because having all this newness and that eyesore is interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, something needs to happen across the street.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
Just how to make it happen, that's the thing.
So what we're showing here is 3 pull-through bays. The red, pink is the addition. The purple is the existing footprint of what's there now. And we're also showing a drive aisle along the south property line for a couple reasons. One, we have it 3 different ways. Here's the way we're showing you. This gives you a chance to get off of Main Street and back to the parking lot without interfering with the fire apron, which we would never want someone to get confused and think I'm going to the parking lot and I'm going through the fire apron to get there.
Right.
That would be bad. So we separated that as much as we could, but we also put parking that would be for firefighters on duty only. There'll be a little shift change thing they have to deal with, but that would satisfy the shift change or the shift to be on duty, plus give you a drive-through to get to that parking lot.
That's the part over by the green.
Yes, ma'am, yeah, all the way over the green. Yeah, I really like standing up there and pointing, but that might be a little difficult, but thanks for asking me that, yeah. So,
I can stand up and point.
okay, but yeah, the pointer will work. I think we're okay for right now. The next site plan, are there any questions about generally how we're thinking of this? Is, the fire trucks are gonna come in off of Walnut, possibly. They're gonna come in off of southbound, or they could come right in through the apron. And that would be a choice that the firefighters or the driver of the apparatus would take. But we envision most of it coming from the west, so they're lining themselves for deployment onto Main Street.
And right now, there's currently parking on both that would be east and west on South Walnut when you're driving in from Cass. So
Yeah,
that makes it feel tight, but here you have it just one
It's
side.
staggered right now, so there's some towards Cass on the west side of Walnut.
Yeah.
There's some on Walnut on the south side. And
Okay.
so it's not exactly back to back.
Right, but
And I think
there's less there, right?
we
is what
would
you
envision it staying like that and taking some parking away from it. And as it nears the west apron of the fire, we'd take some of that parking off of Walnut. One, not to put somebody in harm's way, and two, to make it easier for the
I was
firefighters to
gonna
get back to the
say,
station.
otherwise, that's pretty, not very wide.
It's
I mean,
wide
if-
enough.
Is it?
Yeah, we're not gonna be able to do any training maneuvers on Walnut, but you can certainly get from Cass or from southbound to that apron. Yeah. Yeah, we have a little tool in our computer that does the geometrics on how certain vehicles can maneuver. And it's a very good tool. You just drop it and it tells you, will it work or not work? So we know it works.
It'll be congested on Cass at certain times of day, at certain time of the day. We're currently going on Dickinson, you know, the traffic isn't that bad, but Cass Avenue,
Can be.
Cass
Cass
So-
Avenue is
so
one
we
of the
really
main
have-
running routes for the fire
we have-
department.
I
when you're
understand,
going
they come
south.
up, but
Yeah.
you're turning
But you
out
would-
now
Well,
onto
the
it.
best part is, usually
Yeah.
where you're going is to get to Gratiot, so now you have the option to bypass Cass to get
Yeah.
on Gratiot.
My question is about, what about times when we're doing elections or something? The traffic is going to be a bit much there at Cass and Walnut compared to what we normally do. So that is something we'll have to kind of work through plans on how to not have a giant
Yeah,
mess
and
there.
To your point, Eric, there's a lot more work to do. We're way up here and doing a test for fit and trying to conceptually say, will it work or
Right.
not work? And like I said, I think we have 3 or 4 other site plans that we're not showing you. Right now, we have 3 points of entry to get to the fire station. And we're really trying to separate it from pedestrian walkers, pedestrian cars. Another idea, which we didn't put on paper, was coming directly from the west right into the app base. So we'd be adding a new curb cut on southbound, which we looked at that, and then we looked at the budget. We said, we'll talk about that later, because it's an added cost that we're really trying to fight the
Yeah.
bottom line, too.
Got the bus stop there too, on Gratiot.
Yeah, a little north of there. We're free from that.
On Main Street is what
Yeah.
I'm thinking, you know.
That's like right there.
Yeah, Main Street, it's probably 200 feet away.
Yeah.
Or it's comfortably far enough that no one
It's
would
not
worry.
quite, okay.
Yeah, the bus stop on Main Street is at that little triangle.
Right. I was just gonna, the
Yeah,
buses
there's
there and the
a lot of
congestion.
variables that need to be still
Right.
considered, a lot more than we have had time so far.
We're just thinking ahead.
Will this still be the polling location for the people who vote here currently?
It'll be
Yes.
at the new city hall.
Yeah, sorry, yes, okay, thank you.
I'm gonna keep it here.
So the next plan kind of zooms in on it, and I kind of talked through all the points I really wanted to cover here, but it gives you a little bit more of a zoomed in view. And I guess I probably wanted to point one thing out more than anything else, is the orientation to the visitor to City Hall is clearly separated from a mistake of going into the fire. There's a destination, which is this plaza. You get there, the only place to get into City Hall is obvious, which was critically important to us. Okay, so we're doing some floor plans now. The next one is, any questions before we move on?
Yeah, one quick question. I mean, I know it's not set in stone, but if the sheriff's park here and their entrance is here, isn't that quite a distance for them to go to get to their cars?
It is. And it's unavoidable, I think. I don't think, unless you guys can take the north side of, or the west side of Walnut and say, that's ours.
We can.
Okay, there you go.
Those-
Solve your problem.
Those
Those
are ours, right?
parking. I mean, people pay permit parking.
For
We,
that?
we own all the parking on the,
Okay,
Okay.
I didn't
Yeah.
look
That's
at
what I
that
was-
detail. I
okay.
know there are meters on the east side of Walnut. I didn't look on the west side. But that would certainly put them, they'll be
West
happy.
side.
Closer.
Yeah, I mean, they're in good shape, but, you know.
West side against the
yeah,
old.
it's ours. It's part of our parking lot.
Sweet.
So the next plan is the
I'm trying to visualize, I'm not good at.
first,
Yes, you may.
is the ground level. I will try to call out something that might be hard to distinguish, but there's 2 pinks, a darker pink and then a lighter pink.
Okay.
Oh,
The
there
darker
is.
pink is the new square footage being added to the building. The one other thing is at the lobby area, on the top of the page, you see a little red arrow, it says main entry. There's 2 colors of lavender. There's a dark lavender and a light lavender. The dark lavender is a new piece of square feet. It's the vestibules being added to it.
Okay, the little,
Again,
Okay.
pulling us off of that current existing entry, which is right alongside the fire. And we made that conveniently a nice little seating area. So I wanted to make sure you understood that this is not all what's there, some of it's new. And it's about 6,100 square feet of new construction. Everything else to the right is existing square feet. The blue area, which is called Sheriff, that's a first floor only, there's no second floor above that. The other parts of it, besides the blue, is a two-story element.
That's where the roof leak is.
That is where the roof leak is.
Okay. When we washed through,
Yeah,
if you remember.
yeah. Last time I was there, the floor was splashing.
Oh, my
The
God.
roof leak got a little worse.
No kidding. Wow.
Okay, I'm gonna walk through this a little bit, and hopefully you can follow me. So I'm gonna be Joe Public, I'm gonna walk in the front door, the new front door. And I'll be in that atrium-like space, if you've all been there, it's got an open stair. At the top of the stair, there's a door, so you don't really know where you're going, it's gonna be closed. But immediately to the left when you walk in is the current pair of doors, and I'm suggesting we move them back just a little bit, give you a little breathing room. You can see the alcove where the pair of doors are, and that puts you into the multi-purpose council room. One, trying to take advantage of what's already there. Two, we're really trying to create a city hall that will function with most efficiency and security as possible. So after hours, when someone's coming for meetings, they arrive, they're in, they're right where they need to be. They don't have to wander upstairs or leave and not exactly know how to get out. So that was kind of a security thing. The other part to it is not just for the pedestrian visitor, but it's for the staff. They're isolated. There's a shutdown mechanism that they can't go upstairs. They can only go downstairs. Other than having access control, if they needed to get up there, they'd have to be more or less escorted. Staff, on the other hand, you go through the workings of this space and up the back stair, or the stair to the north. So they have access upstairs, back downstairs, without even interacting with the public. So again, that kind of goes to the safety feature of how current public buildings are thought about and designed. Kind of moving in through that, the council area, immediately behind it, it says conference, and that's more or less your closed session conference room, so it's immediately available to you. I assume one of these doors leads you to
We have to wait for the public to leave. We have to close the doors. We don't have a separate closed
okay.
session, so.
Well, that was the purpose of that, so you wouldn't have to, and then there's
Nice.
storage for seating and tables, et cetera, if you're gonna make that a precinct for election time. Likewise, just kind of carrying on with election time, the conference room could be used for election volunteers during that process. Right behind that is secure election storage, so it's immediately available to that precinct area or the multi-purpose room. There's also a little host area there, a little refrigerator, counter, a sink and microwave, not just for any kind of event, anything that's happening, whether it be council, elections, or some kind of other civic something happening there. And then we included the council office, which I know you currently have, but it's something that we've seen in several city halls that we're doing where there's a need for a
Right.
council person to
Great.
come in and do their work, have access to files, and be in the right spot. So
That's good. I mean, that's needed.
Yeah.
We don't have it here, so we have to, if we do want to meet with somebody, we need to go into the conference room, or if the mayor's not in her office, it's available. So I think it's important that the council have a space that they can leave things to,
Right,
filing
it'd
and
be their
stuff.
secure area. This
It
would
would
not
be
be a
nice.
multi-purpose
It'll be good, yeah.
team space, it would
We
be
could
a
have some-
council
Yeah,
area. And then there's a single occupant restroom, that way you don't have to wander out to the lobby to go to the gang restroom out there. There's a restroom within that area. And that's kind of that beige, swash of the area there, and then that's really dedicated to the multi-purpose city council functions within the city hall operations. There's some-
Can I have one question? Would the election, when we do host, when we have voting, where would you have that at?
would
in
be
that election-
in the
Multi-purpose.
multi-purpose room.
In the multipurpose room, okay.
So you'd set the precinct up in there. And then I'll just kind of
Does that-
go,
Always work when you have,
Because they have it here.
That's
So
what
we
we
use
do.
oh,
this
you always
room.
have in here,
Yeah.
okay.
and then you don't have to worry about people using, like if there was an elevator issue or whatever, you're going right in, there's no stairs.
That was-
Accessibility is a great, yeah,
That was something when they were talking about that.
yeah. Back
have
to the
to worry about
security
the
piece
elevator.
again too,
Yep,
for
for sure.
voting, yeah.
kind of along the same lines there, there's a number of circulation paths there. I mentioned earlier that staff could come from upstairs, downstairs without interacting with public. So that's that one circulation corridor. The other gets you from, I'll call it behind the curtain, out to the public way, more directly to the elevator. So the storages that are down here are directly available down the elevator into that secure corridor down to the storage. So there is some sense to it. We can do it a number of ways, and I'll show you a scheme tonight also as an alternative, where we take some of that away, really targeting the bottom line cost-wise. But this, I thought, when we were optimizing security, efficiency of flow for the staff, and separation from public when it was appropriate. The green area, well, I'll just cover the sheriff real quick. So the sheriff right now, I think, is about 2,400 square feet in your current facility. And that's kind of what they said is a general statement, we just need what we have. There's a couple other things, as I mentioned, the storm shelter. There's a couple other things that go along with that. So I think we bumped that up to 2,800 square feet. We didn't identify exactly where everything goes, but we said it's accommodating to what they have and has some flexibility. What we wanted to do is say there's stuff there now, and then you need things. So let's just say we're going to use some of the offices or define spaces that are appropriate. So we're not rebuilding anything. We're going to tear some stuff down and build some stuff. But there's enough there now that we think we can adapt. So it's less per square foot for that area than maybe upstairs, where we're really kind of taking a lot of it down. So we didn't get into a lot of detail, but we know that their program will fit in this space and that we'll be able to capitalize on some of the stuff that's already there. Not only do they have their entry from outside, but there's an entry for access into the other space, whether it be City Hall or from the sheriff's side. There's a door exchange where you can kind of go between. And I can imagine there might be emergency situations where that's going to be very beneficial. Or just from a coordinating kind of standpoint. In the center, well, I'll say from that beige, or the difference between the light yellow and the beige down, is fire. So fire is able to move into that building, except for the code classification of the stuff that really shouldn't be co-mingled. And some of the nuisance stuff, like fitness center, where they play loud music, etc. You don't want that underneath you if you're an occupant on the second floor. But all the stuff that's there now is, I'll call it the living side. So they're going to be sleeping there, showering there, eating there, watching TV there, so it's not going to be a disruption to what's happening above in the city offices side of things. But we separate it into two pieces. Basically, they have administration, they have offices, conference rooms, work areas for office, type of activities. And they generally want to be separated from firefighters or the suppression team. They're different, right? But there needs to be a communicating way by getting together. So there's a little corridor between the green down to the pink. And the pink is the living. That's where the firefighters are generally at. And the circulation there is key. The key is how quickly can I get from wherever I am onto a fire truck. So there's a very simple straight path. Basically, it's a double-loaded corridor with a spine right into the hot zone. And then we kind of put things by priority, what needs to be closest to the apparatus base. So the dorms, in the middle of the night, you're waking up, how quickly you're going to want to go to the bathroom first and then go to the truck. And you'll see the way it's arranged, the dorms go from the furthest point, past the bathroom, right into the apparatus bay, right alongside the washroom. And what's the next thing? The lockers, then the day room, getting a little further away from the noise of where you're watching TV, etc., relaxing, all the way down to where it doesn't really matter. So the furthest thing away is linen and storage. So we kind of prioritize where you put things in a sequence and with consideration of time on how you get to the apparatus bay. When you get to the apparatus bay, it kind of becomes even a little bit more simple. It's a big box where you keep all the trucks, and you want to have proper circulation. I mentioned the UFC earlier. That's a guideline that we use. That creates a bigger footprint in this station than what you currently have, or most currently operating stations in the state of Michigan are not correct in terms of their size, whether it be the height or the width or the clearance in between things. They're all really non-compliant for the most part. If it's not 10 years or newer, it's not compliant in that general kind of time frame. So we have 3 double-loaded, not double-loaded, but double-doored bays, so you can enter on one side, deploy on the other side, and where we double stack them, you can actually deploy it out of 2 sides. That's not typically the way they do it, but that gives you a little stacking space. And we made it deep enough that you could have one bay, that you could have two. Generally, we'll size it for the biggest vehicle, which is the ladder truck, and that's how deep your bay is. In this case, we made it a little bit bigger. So if you looked at the center bay, or the center of that, you can see one long vehicle. And on the top side of it, it's got a pretty good buffer as compared to the vehicle on its left. The vehicle on the left is sized by meeting the requirement. So we get a little bonus space behind the biggest vehicle. But that allowed us to get two vehicles in one bay.
So they enter on the Walnut side and they leave on the Main Street side is the general rule of thumb.
Correct. Yep, that's correct. Yeah, no, thanks for pointing it out. And then on the extreme side, all the way to the left, good design, we've put all the, I'll call it, dirty side of things, where the contaminants come, the carcinogens come into the station. And in good design, you have a decon chamber that has a sequence of getting you clean before you go into the clean side of the station. So you gross decon at the site, kind of clean up yourself. When you get back to the station, you take your bunker gear off, you wash it, small hand tools, gloves, hats, all that kind of stuff in the decon room. And then you take it into the next chamber, which is when you really wash it. And then when it's washed, you take it to the next sequential place, which is where you hang it to dry, or where it's put for you to be able to use it when you show up for shift. That's the PPE locker room. And on the very end, we have EMS. So there is a place to store, secure medical supplies, sometimes medical props for training, that kind of thing. You'll put that all in that area. Then you have the whole bay. And on the other side, we have some of the things we're going to be interacting with mostly, which is I'm in the shop, I'm doing a little something, I'm in the SCBA room, I'm tuning up my air gear for the next event, and then storage, and then immediately above that, and then the mezzanine level, because the bay is 22 feet high, we're capitalizing that high area you've already built as the fitness place, again, outside of the office envelope, so your noise is separated from day-to-day operations. So,
Okay.
so that's kind of the way that 6,100 square feet works out.
What's a fire riser? Is that just in the wall there, or what?
That's the fire, correct.
Great catch. So that's an existing part of the building where, for the fire suppression. It's a bigger room than that now, but we kind of tightened it up just to really narrowly keep what's there, so we weren't trying to move some of the infrastructure. And I'll back up a little point, because Nate made a good point, which I didn't add anything to, was on the site, there's, to put that new addition there's a couple catch basins there, maybe some telecommunication boxes, but there's a lot of topography. It's about 4 feet, so we're gonna have to move only 2 structures, which isn't bad, but it accounts for a pretty good chunk of money in terms of getting the pad or building pad ready for a building. But all in all, I thought that was, I felt fortunate that there wasn't a whole mess load of stuff out there. So that kind of covers the ground floor. Is there any question-wise that you guys wanted to hear more about?
I don't think so. It's a lot to take in.
Yeah, it is. So I'll just recap,
So,
which I think is
when-
important.
They come to pay their water bill, or
That'll be all upstairs.
that's all
Yeah,
upstairs?
we're gonna do all upstairs.
So on that point, great thing, segue for me, Laura. So we have the elevator lobby, which we're trying to create more like connected to the big box, which right now you don't really get it. When you walk in, like, where do I go?
Yep.
There's doors everywhere.
Agreed.
So we're removing the doors that separate that big open space to the elevator lobby. Make it feel more like you have arrived somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And then likewise upstairs, where you get up there, there's a door. You don't know if it's locked or not. Do I really want to go up the stairs and hit a locked door? That's just now. But obviously with City Hall, it's going to be open, but we're taking it out. So you really have a free flow, a good sense of orientation for your citizens. That's the most important thing, I think, when you go somewhere or anywhere. But when you go to City Hall, there's 10 different things you can do, and you got to ask 3 or 4 people right now, like, where do I go? You want
Yep.
them to be able to stand someplace, oh, I go there. It's clear.
Exactly. Yeah.
So when someone comes in, they're gonna see the stairs, see the elevators, and they're not gonna see anywhere else to go except up. So, and there'll probably be some signage and that kind of thing that helps them along the way. Okay, so I'm gonna go upstairs now, and I've just walked up the stairs, that little yellow box that says stairwell, and you can see the wall is removed, and now I'm kind of just moved right into the space. And immediately upon kind of going through the threshold of the stair, I see everything I need to see. I see 2 service counters, a nice glass wall into a conference room, all signage telling me every department I need to go to. To do that, we had to remove a big block that's there now, which is a restroom, kind of is needed, but it's right in the way, so we took it out. The next scheme I show you is gonna leave it there. Again, it's gonna hit the bottom line and save some money. But we were trying to go for, when I used that good, better, best scale earlier, we want to be in that better zone. We don't need to be the best, we just don't want to be just good. So by removing that, I think we create a long-term solution that everybody will appreciate that, wow, we have really created a stage for our citizens where they have a sense of arrival. When they get to this point, they're going to say, wow, okay, I'm in City Hall, I can do everything I need to do. And that was the whole intention with, you know, doing some things that cost money, but we thought for good reasons. So that purple area upstairs is, if you, have you all been upstairs? So you kind of see this kind of an open lobby light field up to it upstairs. We're foreshortening, because we need the square feet, we can't leave that whole thing, the full length of the building open. But the terminus of that lobby is a glass wall where you would go for public conference room meetings, which could be used for all kinds of things, but community development needs to have meetings there. The mayor, city manager may need to have outside agencies come in there. That would be the place that those meetings would more than likely happen. And I think everyone that arrives as Joe Public or Joe Visitor is going to know that's the place they're going if they're going there for a meeting. And it's securely separated. You can see there's a couple doors, the right and left of that center conference room that gets you into a secure circulation. You're only let in there if you're invited. And if you're invited, you're probably going to one of those 2 conference rooms. One that's immediately part of community development, which is on the top side of the page, or the one down on the bottom side, which is a lot of different departments, clerk, treasury, assessor, finance, etc. But you would be escorted and led in there, but you wouldn't be led into the workplace. And that's the important thing here is you're semi-led into the building to conduct business, but you're not led into the workplace. We really want to have a separation of staff and anything public, and that's kind of why that's set up that way. And you can see the general plan within each, I'll call it 2 different sides. Community development's got an open work area, very visible, not just from Joe Public looking in, but all the staff members working in the workstation. You can see there's a public person at the counter, so they're able to service them. And then there's the backdrop of offices, which have borrowed lights or walls that are windows, so one light from outside transfers through the office to the work area, so everybody's getting an experience of daylight.
So the top area where it says open office area, that's community development?
Yes, that
Okay.
blue area up,
Just
yeah,
double
I'm sorry,
checking.
I didn't
Yeah, that's
really-
all right. Just
so
double
that's
checking.
all community
So
development
that's
side.
like Brittany, right,
And then
there.
what I'm saying, open offices, those little U-shaped things with a chair, that's a workstation, so it's not a
Yeah.
walled-in office, it's just everyone I think can understand what cubicles are. These really, they're not cubicles with high walls, they're workstations so you can interact with staff and see public. That's the intention there. And likewise, if you're in an office, you can see over them to the counter also, or at least see what's happening interaction-wise. And that happens on both sides. On the bottom half, it's the treasurer and the clerk, and finance and assessor. So they're clerks, I'll call them. There's probably a better
Deputy
word for it,
clerks,
but
or,
they're
yeah.
in open workstations to be able to service that counter. And then there's all the appropriate work areas, host areas where, they have the coffee pot, and a little sink, and that kind of thing, immediately within those areas, so they don't have to go somewhere else out of the service area to do those things. They're immediately available to do what they need to do, but also to serve the public, should the public, walk up to the counter. And that happens on both sides. And I'm sticking to the bottom here, I'm kind of working my way to the right. We have the administration suite, which would have the ability to close it in, so there's doored areas there. There's also an entry into the administration suite is if someone's being escorted from the public lobby through that secure circulation. So then they would also have a sense of arrival to the administrative suite. They're not kind of walking through back corridors to find their way there. It will have a clear, I think, an honoring way to get to, you're in the public, you're out here, to where you need to be. So, ceremonial, I guess, is another way to put it. And then within that area, restroom, work areas, and a little bit of a seating lobby area. Centralized to both sides, I'd say centralized to the clerk, treasurer, finance, assessor, and then also to the other side by that corridor. So we're kind of in a unique juncture of the building layout. The centerpiece between the two secure circulations, or areas we say, the focal point is the conference room off the lobby. That was a given for us. And the other things that don't either require immediate daily access or don't really benefit too much by outside light. You know, the conference room at the bottom or to the far right, it would be great to have some light in there because it is a conference room. But that one was positioned more immediate to the administrative suite, so they can easily kind of identify that as theirs. It would be open to all staff, but I think having it there gives us an ability to make it feel like it's there if they're bringing guests in. And having that number of conference room also gives some flexibility to use from the clerk's office for their various things during the year that don't need a dedicated year-round space. Having all those spaces in that immediate area really gives some flexibility for proper function for that department. On the other side, I'll just walk down that same thing with community development. Number of offices that were required, number of open workstations were required, conference space. They have a lot of development sessions where they're bringing outside contractors, developers in. They have those sorts of meetings, so that conference room made a lot of sense for them as well. They need a bigger work area, and that you can see that's much bigger. They have large format plotting or printing, storage materials, and preparation for preparing things or laying out after receiving things. So that workroom is a little bigger than others. And then purchasing kind of identified, I could be in the back sort of thing. I was just reading through the offered material, so I interpreted they have some flexibility where they are, but they needed proper receiving space to get something unloaded, understand what it is, put it in the proper place for storage. So there's a sequence of little spaces that go along with that, which were identified in the program. And then right to the right of that, the break room, which is, again, centrally located to both spurs of the north and or east and west side, but also it puts it to an outside wall where you, at a second level, you can actually put a door out onto the roof and have an outside space to the break area without having to go downstairs and interact with all the things that are going to be happening in the downtown area. This gives it a little bit, I'll say, secure and comfort if you're going to be outside the little table and break area.
So the break room is outside?
The break room is inside, but has access to get outside on a patio area.
Oh, okay.
So the tables and chairs will be inside, counter sink, refrigerator, that kind of thing, cooking appliance, and then outside will be a deck and tables. So you just have some outside space. That was the thought there. Okay, and one last thing I'll point out is you can see all the top left fitness area, which is fitness room. It's kind of like, why is that there? That's the mezzanine from the fire thing next to it. So it's outside of the work area, even though it's connected, it's in the space of, let's call it a lobby, and the people in the lobby aren't going to care that they hear some nice music going on while the firefighters are working on it. So any thoughts on, or any reactions to this second floor?
I'm just thinking that, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Thinking out loud.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking that the council, the office space for the council, or for the commissioners, should be on the second floor. Because if they come in and need to, most likely, you guys can correct me, a lot of times they'll come in, they're gonna meet with the city manager, or they may have questions or whatever. If they're downstairs, then they gotta hoof it upstairs. So why not make something upstairs with them, where they could be?
That's a great point.
Just-
Great point.
I mean, I won't be there, but
Excellent point.
looking out for you.
What's the wellness room supposed to be?
Well, wellness is the space that's happening in a lot of public facilities for staff only. We call it a mothering room, de-stressing room, a place to get out of whatever situation you might be in that's really making you uncomfortable for a minute or two.
We also are required by law to provide areas where people can breastfeed. And it has to have a closed door where it's lockable, and it has some requirements.
Yeah, and that's
I was
really
just
what
thinking that
instead
could
of
be
just
the
calling it a mothering room, making
commission.
it females only, we call it wellness. So in there would be a recliner, a little counter, refrigerator, sink, and that's just a relaxation area.
I was just thinking of the commission, it could be a place for the commission room, because you've really got this side is pretty much mapped out. There's, the offices that are over here in community development, are those identified for people?
They are, yeah, they are. There's always a risk when I say where somebody's gonna sit, so I just say office.
Yeah, that could be,
Do we need 4 conference rooms on the second floor?
No, I was just gonna
Right.
say
I was gonna
that.
say, I don't think so.
I think you
but-
got plenty of
I think we
space
have,
with,
yeah.
with an extra conference room or 2,
Right. that
where you could do
convert.
something with it.
Well, and like, there's a lot of restrooms right by the, I mean, it would be nice if there's one in the admin suite and the other areas, but, I mean, that maybe, you know, there's a lot of, I think there's some
Yeah, I
play.
think there's room to play with there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's
think
a lot
where
of
we have
conference
a
rooms.
couple, where they're doubled, just make
Yeah.
it one. And I think within, this is my opinion, within, let's say, the department to the south side or bottom side of the sheet, where it's a concentration of employees, and I'll say it's probably close to 10, so one bathroom will kind of work. My point in putting it there is that you don't want to send them out to the public lobby and to the public bathroom.
Right.
Right, exactly.
yeah,
And-
that makes sense to me.
And this whole plan evolves around the concept that you want all staff to be able to interact, but not have to go through the public to get there. So no worker would have to leave the secure side of City Hall to go see somebody else. No staff would have to leave the secure side of City Hall even to see a public person. They bring the public person into the semi-secure central conference room. So they're not,
Yeah.
they don't have access to the working side of the building. And more and more that's becoming, uber critical to the way people feel about their workspace, whether it's a city or a corporation or whatever.
Yeah.
It's, having some, and if you can't, you gotta have a really good second way out. And this building, it presents that. And the second way out is that it's stair to the north, which really gets you downstairs, which is, I think, a nice interaction to when you have functions like this. You can come right down from your office and not have to walk through that public corridor, which is,
And if-
again,
yeah.
a safety factor.
I always say I have to add an additional half hour to try to get out of the building, because my office currently is in the back, and there's a lot of people who can stop me along the way. I got, just one question, wait, 1 minute, and it's like, so that would be nice.
Go around and take,
Yeah, no, there's still people there, Spencer.
they're paying their bills, they're
Yeah.
upset, yeah.
The other thing I wanted to add about this, other than the point the mayor, or not the mayor, but Barb made, was the city council commission room on the lower level is now on the second level, but all other staff is on the same level, which makes efficiency in the way you operate. I mean, you don't count the 30 seconds it takes you to go everywhere, but by the end of the month, where'd that 2 hours go? It's kind of eliminates some of that wasted time that you don't even think about.
Yeah.
Right.
So, that's that point. Working backwards, we had a budget, or an estimate at that point, and so how can we make this cheaper? So here's a way. What you're seeing here is both the first floor, or ground floor, and the second floor in the same sheet. Ground floor is to the left, second floor is to the right. What you're not seeing on the ground floor plan is the added fire station. Let's say they added fire stations again. That's the minimal needed space. So what we looked at here, and I'm going to use the graphic on the right to better or best illustrate it. The blue, the lines that go left to right that really define the left block, top and bottom, are the existing walls there. So the way we can save money is to use more of what's there, and not just walls and doors, but distribution of electricity, distribution of air, and the things that hide those things, the ceiling. So if we use those walls, we could save a lot of ceiling, we could save a lot of ductwork, save a lot of electricity that's distributed around the building. We have to make some compromises. But you can see the similarity in this footprint here. That purple area in that graphic is generally the same public lobby. The box in the middle of it is existing bathroom, so we'll leave it there. It obscures some of the view, but let's say you get past that, then you still have that kind of threshold of, hey, I've arrived. Then you still see all of that, the service counters left and right, you still see the conference room right in front of you. And then everything behind it, and all that blue box that's undefined, becomes the same kind of thing we just looked at. It's a new arrangement, some things get deeper, some things get narrower, but we fit all that same stuff in there. And we preserve some of the existing infrastructure, just some of the walls. But the flooring in there, if we don't start trashing it all, we kind of could keep it. And there's a pretty significant savings in doing that. It's an exercise we didn't go past this point on. But we know from having done a lot of this sort of, I don't like to call it value engineering, but that's what you hear. This is more value planning, where we're being thoughtful about how we're going to save money or could save money versus a knee-jerk reaction later on when you feel like you're in a corner and you got to do something. We're at least thinking about it in the head.
So I get the bathroom idea there, that's gonna stay there, you save money. Did the wall, the interior blue lines that are against the yellow, did you make that smaller? Because you left that wall there?
Yes. So I'm going to try to illustrate. So this line right across here, that blue,
Yep.
see it that far away, and this one down here,
Yep,
those are existing walls that
Right.
define not only the center kind of common space, but define everything behind it. If we can keep that, and I'm confident we can, the compromise initially is that the bathroom stays and this becomes a little less
yep,
easy to orient or immediate orientation. It's not bad, but it's really not bad at all. It's just better if that thing's not there.
sure.
But that probably costs you
But-
$100,000 to move it.
Yeah.
So we're keeping this wall, and this thing, making all this work. We haven't worked it out, but we'll make it work. And this will save you a pretty significant amount of money. Not
So on
because-
this one, you moved that wall.
Correct.
You
I
moved down.
knocked it down.
You
I basically
pulled it.
said
I think
everything
you
was
must
there
have
is coming
gone
down.
out, yeah,
Yeah, you gutted it.
Pretty much.
yeah.
And taking down the walls is one thing, but when you take down the walls, ceilings come down. Ceilings come down, lights come down. Lights come
Yep.
down, electricity gets monkeyed with. So
For sure.
it's got a ripple effect. So what we're trying to say, there's a way to accomplish the same concept with a little compromise that'll save you money. And that's what this is showing. So on the first floor, it's less savings, but same concept applies. Basically, this green area, all of that green area, the box in the middle is going to have minor modification. But we're essentially saying this is going to be smaller than the concept I already showed you, but it'll still work. Get you off the corridor, the walls are there, ceilings there, lights are there. We can use that like it is. And then the space behind it gets a little bit modified. This long corridor that gets you this back clump of green, all that stays the same. There's a lot of savings in doing that. Red, unfortunately, we have to modify all of it. Sheriff, like I said earlier, we're going to use everything we can. We didn't define it yet, but that's going to be kind of in the middle of full renovation or just modification. So there's savings there. And on the grays, on both versions, leave them like they are. And I don't think there's a lot to do other than general maintenance to them. And polish it up a little bit, but call it good. So this scheme is north of $500,000 worth of savings, which is a pretty good chunk of change.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
And I'll
And
say
still
it's
is all the same
compromised, but it's
security.
not gonna kill it.
It's all the same security.
Same exact approach. Same exact approach.
And also, it's still, when people are walking in, you're still getting the benefit of moving the door, having the door.
All that, same
It's
concept.
Same concept,
Yeah.
perfect.
So essentially, I'm not gonna dwell on the first floor because there's a lot of change because of fire, but on the second floor is where the impact is gonna be, the bathrooms there. We can make that okay, but we really can't.
Okay,
It's just, if we could move it, it would just be so much
Yeah.
nicer.
right.
I can see, all
You
right.
make those decisions as home. I really want to do this, but I'm going to do this because it costs half as much.
That $500,000 number, I'm not sure it's in the presentation anywhere. If you guys want to write that down, it might not be a bad idea.
It's not in the presentation. So Mike and I were kind of brainstorming along the way here. on a couple things. So the next couple of images, kind of trying to say, how can we define the character of this building, not as an office building that's been here for 30 years or so, but as a civic center, a municipal building. And we had to do that from a couple of different points. So here's a main view of the building. This is more or less looking from the corner of Cass and Main Street on the east side, kind of giving you a frontal view of this becomes the city hall part of the building. So there's a little bit of a marquee element that we're adding, to change it up a little bit. We'll accent with green, kind of city color, kind of striping the building together, the existing plus what the new would add to it. And you can kind of see faintly on the left side of that first image, the fire station kind of creeping into view. The next view is kind of, you walk down south on Main Street, and we're south of the building, kind of looking back towards the northwest, and we're seeing a little bit of the existing building and that marquee element we saw all the way on the far right. And then the new fire station added element, and then you can see the green kind of continuing, tying the two buildings together. Couple flags.
Trying to make it look different.
Yeah, a little bit different. It's hard to marry things together and be exactly the same, and they're different. One's I'll call it an office building, one's a fire station. They're different.
Again, cut down the confusion.
Yep, the big doors give it away.
One question. We don't have it now. I do see some cities have it because, I don't know, if there's more traffic on Main Street, do we have to, is there a threshold where we'd have to put up like one of those traffic lights to stop traffic when there's a fire truck pulling out? I don't know if that might be a Jeff question.
That's a great question, but, I mean, it's a great point. I don't know if there's a criteria to do it. It's more of a conversation with fire chief and kind of the
I mean, there's not a light there now,
municipality and the.
so I don't know.
From what I recall of our conversation with the fire chief, we did bring that up, and he said he didn't think it would be necessary.
Okay.
We'll revisit that if the project moves forward, of course, but that's what I recall of our conversation.
Yeah, if it's,
Yeah,
generally where I've seen it
It would
done,
be
I've done
supposed
this
to
a couple times, if the fast
cash
moving
and
street
crash.
that you're moving onto, we put them in.
so that light would be close into the other light that's on Cash.
Right.
Or maybe
It's
Yeah,
so
you'd
close.
be, you'd be
South
better
Cass, I
off
don't know.
Yeah.
getting with the county and working something out with the light that's existing, because they do have a feature you can control that.
Yeah, as an example, we're working on a fire station for Canton Township right now, and it's on Michigan Avenue. Michigan Avenue is 55 to 70 miles per hour speeds, and there is a traffic signal going in there.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, fast moving.
Basically, a highway, right, yeah.
So, moving on to the next image, we're rotating around the building, now we're standing in the public parking lot, and we're looking back at the current entry to the building and the new entry, which again, the real goal was to orient the pedestrians, where do I go, give it proper identification, and again, thematically, that green stripe kind of carries around the building there, and it gives you some cover going into the building, which I don't know why, it doesn't exist right now, but gives you a proper place to enter the building. So what do you think?
Interesting concept, yeah.
So it's exciting.
I think I'm more concerned about the next section.
Exactly, yeah.
But yeah,
Happy thoughts before we got there.
How
So-
much do you like it?
The budget,
Gosh, my mom looks great.
quite a bit. I mentioned early on that there's a significant amount of site work that we have to do to manipulate to get the building there. Building addition, building renovations, pretty hefty number.
Guess Gloria was off a little bit.
Yeah, right? That's
Not
what I
much,
thought when
no.
she said that.
Contractor costs, and we didn't get into a lot of detail, but contractor costs can be looked at a lot of different ways, and depending on how you deliver this, meaning how do you build it, that could vary quite a bit, enough that'd be favorable to do it one way or the other. Whether it be a general contractor, a construction manager, or a design-build approach, all will vary different, and that number changes significantly, all three of them. So there's a time down the road that you need to even begin to think about that. Right now, you don't really, it's not a decision at this point, but there's a way for you to improve the numbers by making choices. So we've estimated construction costs at $10,550,000, which would be a pretty good investment on a building that's already got value to it, but it's rebooting it the way we see it, with the exception of a couple of things we've already identified. We're gonna have to do something with the windows. We're gonna have to do something with current infrastructure that's okay right now, mechanical systems are there and working, but there will be a time shortly down the road, is about 10 years.
Yeah, so I'll restate what you just said. When he said windows, he meant that was a future thing that's not in this number. The roof is in this number because that's an immediate cost, and you have to do that in order to move into the building. The windows are something that the city can save up for and deal with when they get tired of ongoing sealant replacements.
Which is about every 5 or 6 years.
Yeah. The mechanical systems, there's gonna be some, I think it was estimated 5 to 10 years left on the RTUs, the roof deck units. One of them is older than the others, but generally they're still functional.
What kind of cost is that then, to replace?
There
Do you have
are
rough,
there's 7 units, I think, 7 or 8, somewhere in that range.
Probably would be in the $700 to $1 million range,
Each?
something like that. No, total.
Okay.
replacement. It could be less than that, I mean, it probably is, I was thinking of
Yeah.
distribution included right now, distribution's in place, you'd have to replace just the equipment, so it's gonna be less than that. But I wanted to point that out, is that we're rebooting the building for a new life cycle. So when we say that, we mean it's about a 30-year outlook before we have to spend any money. But I wanted to recap the ones we said you need to know about, the sealant and the mechanical units, you're gonna have to touch those. You don't get to wait 30 years for that. And that's not special to you. Any new building, you need to start thinking about resealing and building equipment, you can say it's 20 years down the road, but it doesn't last 30 years, so.
The windows, obviously the resealing, but they're pretty efficient at this point. They're not the top of the line.
You have here,
They're not single pane.
just the same one that
so
you're.
we're gonna get into energy at some point here, probably at the tail end of this budget conversation. But they're insulated windows. It's just the window system itself is outdated, and you can tell just by looking at the building. But when glass is broken, they couldn't get replacement parts for that window system anymore. So they took the glass out, put the new glass in, and then they just used glue and sealant to reassemble the thing.
Okay.
So that sealant
that's what has to be
failed over
replaced.
time, and then you have to go back and replace the sealant to keep that water tight.
Yeah, okay,
And those go bad every 5 to 10 years.
okay.
But because there's so much glass, you'll have to double check it every year or two.
But with this investment, it's not a patch. You're rebooting the life cycle of the
Yeah.
building. So with that said, we're looking at we like to look at projects as a total project. So when you say how much does it cost, a lot of people will say how much does it cost to build it. That's one thing. But you're making a much more commitment than that. There's things that go along with it with soft costs. You're not going to take all your furniture here and move it over there. You're going to get some new furniture. There's going to be a lot of new equipment for fire in terms of what they need to do their job, not just building equipment like HVAC. I'm talking about firefighter equipment. So that's built in there. We didn't look at their inventory. Some of it might be perfectly fine. There always is something that we move. So this number goes down from there, but we're trying to build in your,
So like there's furniture costs, that's all in here.
yes.
It's encompassed in here.
This is, I'll call it like a turnkey cost.
Okay,
And so you don't keep getting, oh, and then you gotta buy, oh, and you gotta buy that, and that, and that, and that. And that's usually what happens when people think of a project,
Yeah.
is what does it cost to build it?
So
We
that's
think
in
of
the
as-
$14 million. when you say
Yes, that's
Not
total.
necessarily in the 12,950, furniture and new
No,
equipment.
the total project cost that we're suggesting this would be is at $12,950,000.
And that includes furniture.
Yeah, it's a total project. But we're so high up here, there's so many unknowns that we say this bottom, there's a range. And we've built into that soft cost, we've built in a contingency.
not the red. You're
That's what
talking
I'm
about the
looking at.
yellow. You're talking about the yellow is the
Yellow.
range.
Yellow is the range.
The
but-
red is if you built a
But
whole new.
in that is your contingency, which, oh, I want to do this. That wasn't in the plan, but I want to do it now that I see it's possible. So
Sure.
you add to it. There's also a contingency, that, oops, something didn't work out amongst the contractor, the engineer, the architect. That always happens. So it's built into that on the construction side, not the owner side. So So you don't have to worry about that. It'll get taken care of as the process of building the building. And there's bond issuance costs, legal costs, all those things that you're gonna pay for. You just wanna know what it's gonna cost in total up front. So we try to build that in for a total picture. We could easily not show you that and say it's a $10 million project, but you're gonna be unhappily surprised when you start getting all these other things that's gonna cost you money. So then bumping down, and that 12,950, we put a range on it, on one side or the other of it. And typically, I think the last bid we did was, got 5 bids under, and that was the general bid. That was a Canton project, I think. Yeah. And so typically, we're pretty darn good about what this is. And we don't do it ourselves or by ourselves. We do it. But we include a lot of industry partners outside that are building things every day to come up with these prices. So we're generally worried because it's a guess, it's like
Sure.
it's an estimate, but we're generally in the right range so people aren't unpleasantly surprised.
Dave, can you, the red, the 23 to 28?
So we looked at a couple other things. I told you the alternative plan, so that's about $500,000 less than this. And then there's this other one in red, which is, scrap this idea, we're building a new building somewhere else. So I know you're not doing that, but we wanted to give you a comparable, what if we were, is this a good value for us to take an existing city, not city asset, but an asset in the city, and turn it into our new home? What would we be looking at if we tried to do this differently? And you could kind of see there, it's about twice as much money to kind of start from scratch. That's not always the ratio we see, because we do a lot of existing building renovation additions. Sometimes they're a lot closer. Sometimes they're so close it makes more sense to build a new building. Like, I'll use an example of East Point City Hall. We did the same sort of thing, and the analysis was, it's cheaper to build a new building. But your potential building has a lot of strength and life left in it. And it has things that have been newly done that we can use in your new thing. Some buildings don't have that, so this ratio is far apart.
Gotcha.
But that's a realistic number. If you were gonna say, I'm gonna go build a 32,000 square foot building, mixing fire, sheriff, and city functions together, it's gonna be about that much. It would have been way different 5 years ago, and even more so 10 years ago, but right now, this is about where you're gonna see prices trending.
On the Home Garden Network, which I'm stuck watching because we counter the ESPN that's on in my house, they would call it has good bones.
There you go.
I've heard that lately.
All right, you can join the team, good boy.
Do you want to touch on the energy comments?
Yeah.
And also, that Greg is looking at renovating his building too, right?
Yeah.
So we looked at the, your energy consumption costs for this plus fire is about $75,000 a year. That's a cost. Evaluating what this new building would cost, we see about a 20 to 30% savings. Primarily because what's there. Plus the roofing, which Nate in the report kind of indicates, Nate did a thorough review of that. We think our 12.5 on roofing over there right now, we know it needs to be changed. It's either saturated with water or it's just not going to meet current energy codes when we put a new roof on it, which would be an R30. That'll save about 6% in terms of energy loss. So that's part of that 25 to 30% savings. So you're looking at an annual savings in energy consumption around $20,000 to $22,000 to stay here or move, wherever you move. You're consuming a lot of energy here that you wouldn't in just about any other building. Newer building, yeah, I'm sorry, I think it's newer building. So that's another thing to kind of mix into the cost equation is you have an ongoing savings for, a smarter building in terms of the way it's currently built. It's not perfect. I mean, it was built long enough ago that the walls are not as good as they are if you build them today. But the roof we can make right in terms of what we would do to it.
And the windows are insulated glass, so that
Yeah.
improves
Yeah.
that quickly.
How much is it to put the windows in roughly?
I did not estimate that, but it would be a six-figure number. There's a lot of glass on the building, maybe more than that, maybe we get seven figures.
Yeah.
So it would be something you save up for, and I'll just make it clear, you do not have to do that to move into the building. It would be something that you can save up for, you know, years down the road. It's a system that can be maintained. It's just a system that's going to, you know, have some minor costs associated with maintaining it.
And kind of for that, it's a system you would never have to replace, you just have to always maintain it. It's not a system that, oh my gosh, I got this window system.
So,
It's
yeah.
just difficult to maintain because the parts aren't available, but it's maintainable. And like I said earlier, every building that has windows like that needs to be resealed every 5, 6, 7 years. It's just a routine. Sealing doesn't last forever, and it's something you have to
So it's
redo.
roughly $1 million, let's just say?
Yeah, so it's an optional cost, but it's something that the city might want to consider doing.
Yeah, and I'd caution on the $1 million. It's a number, but
Yeah.
we haven't looked at it.
Okay.
Yeah, we
Could
got-
be-
I just didn't, I really
just
wasn't
threw that
sure
out.
Yeah.
what stratosphere we'd be at like that.
Could be
That's
significantly
actually
less.
less than I thought.
Yeah.
My guess, if Nate and I were in different rooms, I would have gave you a different number. It would have been lower.
Lower?
That would have been my number. It's, building's like 200 feet long, times 2, 400 feet, times 2, because it's 2 floors.
Yeah, so,
So 800 feet times 4 feet high, top to
He'll
bottom.
come up with 800,000.
So it's 32,000 square feet of glass. And it's probably about $40 a foot.
When you're looking at this.
Maybe, even at,
Close.
yeah.
yeah.
And the
So
water,
it's definitely a six-figure number.
Yeah, it's 6 figures, but
You might not get something.
I don't think it'll be.
and the water damage that already exists, that's very surface, right?
Yeah, so, there was a couple locations where we had some mold growth growing at inside corners of the brick. That was mostly derived from, you know, sealant failures and water getting in and behind the brick. Outside corners, we saw a darkened brick, which had indicated the coping, had failed and let water in. So there's a few locations like that. But it's, if you arrest and stop the problem and then clean it up, it
Yeah.
goes away.
And that's impacted greatly by the vegetation that's so close to the building. Not getting the sunshine on that wall impacts it. Not so much that what comes out of the tree is the factor, but what the tree does by blocking the sunlight does have an effect on it. Not to mention the stuff that falls from the tree.
Yeah, tree trimming was on one of the recommended things that I put on.
Tree trim.
None of this can be put back in Oakland, huh?
I mean, I don't know.
When you're
Everything's
buying or selling a
negotiation.
house, you negotiate if the roof needs.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, we could.
Yeah, and that's what our due
Totally reasonable.
diligence, 60 days
Yeah.
is,
At
to
the
go
very
back.
least, you could consider looking at that roof leak. That's a pretty bad
That's
issue.
huge, that's
Yeah.
big.
Yeah.
They should have fixed that before it became,
Yeah.
Well, could that still be a negotiation? I mean, we go back, we have a,
Yeah, we're not locked into anything.
we're not locked into it.
No.
I mean, I would try that, my gosh, because that's a big,
Why wouldn't you say 50/50 on the roof? Why just fix the leak? We're getting a new roof,
yeah,
you pay
no, I would
half.
say, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's
Exactly.
required. I mean,
Negotiate
Thinking like a
that price.
homeowner on, what's the name of your show?
Yeah,
That's what I see, it's like, well, I'm not fixing that, I'll pay for
I
half.
think you should. I don't think we should pay that amount of money with
Love
that
it or
kind of
list it.
damage.
Love it or list it. All right. I love it.
love that show. I do,
Seems
My
like a
mom
reasonable
loves that
ask.
one. Yeah.
More than
but
reasonable.
not with,
Yeah.
I would say.
I like the old people.
Greg,
All
did
right,
you want
so-
to briefly touch on the existing facility assessment that's going for?
Yeah, so
Yes,
Um,
please.
we had Fishbeck Engineering, which they also do fire stations and city halls, right? So they went through the fire station and city hall to look at renovation costs. Not to make any major changes that would cost more money, but to pretty much bring it up to code as it exists now. So that's supposed to be back, they're saying Friday. And then I would look at it, make sure it contains everything that we asked for, and then we would set up a work session date to
Do
go
you
over
still
that.
have years from 10 years ago or 15 years ago when
Yeah,
we
we're
did
from-
that?
From 2005, 2007,
seven.
and then I have one from before that when I was another firm.
Yeah, but I think the 2007 one's the one
Yeah,
I'm referring to.
2007, yeah, I have that. And we did one in 2015 also.
Oh, did you?
Math on
Okay.
how much energy savings it would have had if they.
Yeah,
Well,
actually, we
yeah,
were
that would
kidding
have to
about
be
that.
had to
The energy savings from when I first did it would have been $400,000
Right.
up through today.
And then we're also, with Plant Moran and Finance, looking at different options to pay for this.
Yes, I was going to ask that. How?
Yeah, what are the
What kind of
options, do you
Right, are the
know?
options, exactly.
Yeah, so,
Oh, you don't know what the options
well, I
yes
mean,
or yet?
so we have, some cash, right, but you're gonna have to bond for this. And so,
Is that a bond that the people vote on?
no,
No.
so it's gonna be, you're already doing a bond for water and sewer, doing a capital improvement bond. So you can add this project to it, and then the general fund would pay its portion of the bond. You do get savings because the bonding for this would fall exactly in line timing-wise with what we're doing for water and sewer. So you would save costs on the bond itself, rather than doing two separate bonds.
We can bond up to that much, because, I mean, that was the big issue when we were talking about the water plant. We could only bond to a certain amount.
Yeah, but you're not even getting close to your debt ceiling with what we would, because the only debt we have right now is the ice arena,
No, that's taken
3
care of.
million, 3.5 million, whatever it is. So your debt ceiling's got a lot of room in it. Actually, I should take that back. You do have to count the SRF on that, but you still have plenty of room. We already had a meeting with bond council just to make sure that we weren't, and we're not even close to the ceiling on this, so. But it depends on how you go. You can either bond the whole project, or you can apply some cash to it and lower the bond amount. So we're looking at different models just to see what would work best.
And that's a bond that is paid back through to the general
We
budget.
would, that
The general
portion,
fund for
right.
that portion of it would,
Right.
would take care of the city hall, and then water and sewer would take care of its
Water,
portion.
yeah, I realize that.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess we really need to know more about the numbers. I mean,
Oh,
I would
for
like to
sure.
see the numbers.
That's the second, well, not second, the third work session of this, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
We have
probably,
to go back to
It'll be
Oakland
with
by
Fishback,
September
won't it?
1st, correct?
Well,
No.
no, because we gotta, go ahead,
Right.
Greg.
what, so when Fishbeck gets this back, we'll set up a date for them to do a work session.
Commissioner was asking about the expiration date of the due diligence period.
Oh, so that, we got an extension on it through September 25th,
Good, you can negotiate,
so.
absolutely.
I just, we could have really hurried this thing before, but I'm like, we need a little more time.
It's too much to, I mean, this is a big step. And
Yeah,
I
I
don't think you
think
want
we
to
all
rush
wanna
it.
feel comfortable and
Should,
digesting it all.
Just a question. Isn't a third component that I haven't heard discussed tonight what the value of this property would be? So we're saying it cost X to build this, it would cost Y to fix this up, so we have to keep that in mind. We're gonna spend $10 to build new, or spend $3 to keep this, so maybe our cost is only $7 here. But instead of that 7, wouldn't you also be considering, well, we're getting 2 for this here that we wouldn't have had? So the cost of the new building's not 7, it's $5, because we're getting extra money for this. Doesn't seem like there's any discussion about that.
Yeah, but you're assuming we're getting 2 for this property.
That's just- yeah.
Right,
So I
no,
think-
it's an
I mean, that's-
assumption, but I'm just saying, at some point, it's gotta be
Part
a
of the
factor,
equation.
even if you said to the bond council, we would like a bond that we could make payments on and not be penalized with, because we're gonna generate revenue somehow from this. And our revenue might be a couple ways, right? It's from the hard sale, or that, plus the additional revenue that's brought in for taxes for this property. So, I mean, I think if you ask bond council, they would say they have to have some flexibility in how they're locking us in on this.
The problem we have is, it depends on what model you go with, because you're taking a property and we're gonna dictate what's gonna be on it. And then we're talking about doing like public-private partnerships. So, so the tax revenue from this could be years down the road, right? It's not gonna happen immediately. I mean, it's gonna be a year or two before we could even move out of here, right? And then you gotta look at what's the best way to sell this with these stipulations.
Yeah, and you're
And you've got 2 buildings that are here that are gonna probably cost 1 point something, $2 million to tear down. I don't know. I mean, we're going through this with the water plant. It's gonna cost us about $2.5 million to tear that down.
Yeah.
So,
So there's-
yeah, I mean, it just depends on what the environmental comes back with. There's asbestos in these buildings, right? So,
So you're not gonna gain a lot
so
to
I.
put toward that,
So I,
is what I'm
it's a-
thinking.
It's
I get what
less
you're
of a
saying,
factor.
so I look at it like, whatever we get is a cherry on top of the icing, I guess, because we just don't know what path we're gonna
It may
take.
be a
Well, and-
raisin, not a cherry.
And I'm
Yeah.
actually, I feel better if we don't rely on that, because then it gives us more flexibility to say, well, we don't have to get as much for this property, because we do have stipulations and we do want to have say in what goes here, right? So but if we have to sell it for the highest amount, because in order to afford things, it gives us less flexibility, right? To leave public access and to do the things that I think we wanna do, right? Yeah.
I think it would, well, you said Fishbecker's doing it, so I'll wait for that, because I think that's going to be something that's going to come up. You're gonna need to
Absolutely.
be able to
Sure.
tell the public, this is what it's gonna cost
Sure.
if we do this,
Yeah.
I mean, because
Absolutely.
this is not a, $5 million project. I mean, this is gonna be,
Right,
you wanna be as transparent as possible
Yep.
with everyone.
absolutely.
But, and we have to do something fast, especially with City Hall, right? I mean, it's bad.
It'll last through the winter.
We hope.
I mean, we have
Well,
You've got a lot of
we got a lot of
glue.
fingers crossed.
we do have flexibility because we've got, so we had, we were trying to obviously keep cash on hand for this project, but we have still have $1 million from the Ice Arena Bond Fund we can use for a project. And then we have, like $3 million in there for seawall replacement, that the seawall's not caving out yet, right? What's going on is everything's caving in behind it because the sand and the dirt is washing out because the seawall flexes. So we've got time, so we can push that out. And so that's what I mean, there's a lot of moving pieces that they're looking at right now.
Right, and if you're going to be keeping the waterfront, you're gonna be responsible for that seawall.
Well, this
You
is,
know,
I mean,
so
on the other side,
even on-
it was the
well,
other side, this one's a lot better
Not
shape
better,
on this
but
side.
either way,
Yeah.
you're gonna,
And then, I'm still think we're gonna get some kind of funding for that, but.
good luck.
With the other infrastructure concerns we have around the city, how does this funding impact that? So.
Well, that's what we're looking at, because we've got the capital improvement plan now. And when we look at, what really, because we've been doing most of it, the really only two big things that are standing in the way is the $2 million match for the bridge. And then, for that seawall. And that seawall can definitely be pushed out, and there is opportunity for funding for it, or an allocation for it. So, we've got a lot of room with the capital improvement plans that we have in place right now.
But if we expanded it to include the issues with the sewer, how,
Well, that's a
Well, we have to
different
bond
fund
that
though,
separate,
right? I
okay.
mean, so water and sewer is paid out of the water and sewer fund. The capital improvement projects we're talking about get paid out of the general fund, so.
But the sewer fund the sewer project could create another big debt for us.
Well, the
Meaning, either
no, no,
way,
no,
I
the-
mean, you may have to, you're going to have debt no matter what pocket it comes out of, is
Well-
what I'm saying.
But your water and sewer rates, you can control that.
Well, yeah, but you
right?
can't raise them so high that, it's
Well,
going to
but
take care of what we're looking
What project
for.
are you talking about though?
Well, we're
Because the-
talking about the problems we're having right now with the
Right,
sewer and
okay.
some of the.
No, I just thought you meant the 7
No.
million that
No,
we're
no, no.
bonding. That's already been
No,
factored
no,
in.
No, I'm
Yeah.
talking about
sewer separation?
Right.
the possible issues
Right.
that we may have to address. And I'm just saying, yeah, it'll come out of a different fund, but it's still a debt.
Sure.
And it's gonna be out of the full,
Yeah, but I mean, it's not gonna affect what's going on in the general fund.
Well, it can.
How so?
Well, you either have to raise your sewer and water to cover it, which you will have to do, but that's still going to be a debt if you can't collect that.
But it's a debt on the water and sewer
I
fund,
understand,
not the
but-
general fund.
But
It's
on
like
the
I
whole
have-
city umbrella,
It's a
another
big
debt.
umbrella, it's just
And-
another
Well, no,
debt,
let's-
is what I'm
Let's
saying.
back up, because there's two ways to take out a bond for water and sewer. If you do a revenue bond, it doesn't count against your debt ceiling.
Okay,
So,
Yes, if
Maybe
you-
it doesn't count, but we still
So-
somehow have to pay them back, right?
Right.
No matter, call it a bond, call it whatever, somehow we have to have the money to pay it back.
right.
and to cover the interest that is going to be involved. So
I'm just saying, there's just some other issues.
And
even
either
though
way,
it's a
we are
different
gonna have to
fund, I mean,
spend-
there's just
money.
a lot of issues here.
Yeah. And it's hard to know without knowing what the costs are for this, which I guess we'll know very, very
Sure.
soon, without knowing how much we could sell this for. I mean, there's so many variables, so I'm not trying to push it. But, yeah, just knowing in the next few weeks, I think we'll know. It'll be a little bit clearer.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to stress about it right now, but,
Exactly.
you know, with people coming in.
It's
it would
tough
have to be-
it's
yeah.
tough when you get these little pieces of the pie, right? We don't know the whole picture yet. And it's tough to, like, for me, I struggle when we get a presentation and then it leads my brain to more questions, right? But they're questions that really can't be answered tonight, like you're saying, right? And that does stress me out too. So Commissioner
Yeah,
Calhoun,
no,
you
I'm-
are, yes.
I'm not pressed about about not having the answers
But
down.
it does, it does.
We
I see
just
what you're
know
saying.
that there's not a lot of money coming down the pipe anymore. And it won't be for a couple more years before we start seeing anything coming out of Lansing or the federal government. I think that's tightened up so much that I think, you know, that concerns me. Because we, you know, yes, we got 2 million for the riverfront. Okay. We're gonna get another 5 million? Don't think so. You know,
I don't know.
well, I'm pretty sure.
I'm not
we haven't.
banking on it, let's put it that way.
That's right, we
No,
can't.
we're
I
not
guess we
banking on
can't.
anything, but we're doing our due diligence to go after it when we
Well,
can.
of course. I mean, I think you should, but I'm just saying.
Hopefully
we
for the
can't.
fire department, maybe we can get something.
That's what we're trying.
And that fire, all the fire department stuff is gonna come out with the state budget if, or when they
If
do
we
it.
ever have a budget.
Right, right, I'm just,
Yeah,
okay, so
yeah,
we'll
I
know,
think so. I
we'll
mean,
know by the end of this year on almost everything, right?
and
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, from what we've submitted with Denise this year, and Hertel, you know, they've both been working on them, but yeah.
Do we only have one extension on the, how many extensions do we get on our due diligence period? Just,
I think if you're gonna, want another one, then they're probably gonna look at rent or something. That's usually what happens when you wanna extend too far, right?
It starts costing you.
Yeah, you start
But if you're
paying.
negotiating with them, right?
Right, the
so-
rent usually comes if you actually
Have to
decide you're gonna buy it.
buy it, right.
And you just haven't moved
No, I meant
out
you're
yet.
gonna move your due diligence period out. Normally,
Sometimes so.
they start wanting,
Non-refundable money
Yeah.
starts happening
Yeah.
typically, but there are some good negotiation points here that you guys have mentioned tonight, so maybe we can swap those off for more time if we need it. And the fact of the matter is, all these points that you did an excellent job of bringing up, they need to know about that at Oakland University, because these are all issues for other people that would potentially buy the building too.
Right.
And by the way, it's public record now, so make sure you tell whoever you're gonna sell the building to, what's out there,
Right.
Well, and it's definitely devaluing their building
right?
currently,
Of course it is,
right?
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's, so the.
It's leaking right now, these
Right.
big rains. It's
Right.
leaking.
Yes, exactly.
Well, we
say
would
that
have
louder,
felt.
say that louder.
Absolutely
Yeah.
bizarre, they let that happen.
Yeah.
well, it is
that's
disappointing
awful
because
that
we
they let
pointed
that
it out to them.
Yeah, on the
what
first
a-
walkthrough we did,
6
yeah.
months ago or
Walk through
whatever it
your-
was, so.
Your own risk.
And it wasn't all that
Bring your
bad then.
umbrella.
No,
You'd be surprised now.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
bad.
boy.
Yeah, it
Well, if
looks
you're
like it.
sloshing through it.
Yeah,
yeah, that's really too bad.
splashy carpet.
You just don't see that in the private sector.
We'll have to be careful too, because this is now public,
Oh, yeah.
this whole
It
thing.
is.
And
Yeah,
we have
public.
not talked about, I mean, hopefully if people do listen, as Mitch Hotz, if we are going to put this out there without all of the other things that, this makes me nervous now. Because this is going to be a Palm Valley headline.
It's gonna be scrutinized quite well.
Well, sure.
Before we
and
have
so-
all the answers, yeah.
and it
And
should
I
be,
mean,
yes.
and again,
But we
it's-
need all the
right.
pieces, that's the
Right.
thing.
We need all
It's
the
one
pieces.
piece of the puzzle, or one
Right.
piece of the pie, right? And we have to make a lot of educated decisions based on all of the pieces.
And the other information is coming in.
Yeah,
Right.
and
Yeah.
you didn't, I
Right.
mean,
And that's
it wouldn't
right.
make sense to give it to you all at once. I mean,
It would
you
be
gotta,
so
you gotta take it in
overwhelming.
bites, so.
Yeah.
I wouldn't,
Yeah, I think we're
I
doing
wouldn't
it.
survive.
I feel comfortable with how you're presenting this to us in pieces. I don't know about the rest of the commission. I think it's been, this process, I feel like, has been to get these pieces in chunks where you can process it, right, and have time to think about it has been a good process.
And it matches the timeline of when the information's coming in too.
Right.
You can only do so much, but it also, we just have to be careful in our thoughts and in our, any public comments or anything, because these other pieces are serious pieces of the,
Yeah.
Well, I
making the
think-
decision.
yeah.
That's the biggest thing right now. You could get real excited about this, or you can just, demonize us for it, but you don't
I'm
know all
sure.
the other things.
I'm sure we'll get a little of both.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think it's basically, this is the first step,
Yep.
This is what we're doing, and
We're
we're
looking
gonna
at
have
it
other steps along the way
step by
before
step,
anything
yep.
is, so I think that's just what you have to emphasize is, this is step one,
Well, and I think, going back to what Rob said, I think the presentation from the county, and I sent you that documents today, that was a piece of the puzzle too, going back to what is the value of this property. And so that broke it down into the value, not only what the property could bring in the taxes, but what the value is to the rest of the community.
and that's just one piece, because you don't know what you're gonna sell, you don't know
Right.
what you're gonna build, so, I mean.
And it's
And
so
this
far
whole-
down the road.
I
that-
mean, all of it is there's risk, right? I mean, it's just like everything in any life decision, especially major ones, there's risk.
But we know doing nothing is not an option.
Yes, doing
So-
nothing, especially when you have things happening in City Hall that we have happening right now, so.
And I'm glad that we're not banking on, I think we are looking at some scenarios that are not completely ideal and planning for those, which is, we're not banking on every single request we have coming. So that is good to know that, we're looking at real numbers.
Yeah,
I'm just glad that the bats that have been getting into the building, specifically this room right here, did decide to do it tonight.
yeah.
That's all right. They're harmless.
The bat infestation.
Bats are
say that.
harmless.
That's
That's
they
really
come in
been
here.
fun.
Yeah.
Or the
They're probably right up there
radiator,
with,
the radiator that's between,
I know.
the radiator by
They've been
Elaine's
bats here for a
desk.
long time.
And is there even any fire suppression in here? You mentioned that, and I go,
The radiator behind Elaine's desk that, if
that's what the asbestos is
Uh,
for.
Greg turns his radiators off in his office, then they start spraying out and flooding the Elaine's area.
Remember, we caught a bat that
I
one
mean, it's-
time.
That's a toxic workplace.
You
Right over
think?
my head.
You don't do it on purpose.
And by the way, our thermostats don't work.
Oh, nice.
So the only way to control
makes
the
it
heat or the air conditioning in our offices are to turn the radiators off.
Well,
So-
no, what I do is, because if you gotta leave it running so you don't get the leaks, so then I adjust my space heater.
Yeah.
I have a space heater.
Yeah,
that
so
goes
that's
all
probably
summer.
not figured into the energy costs that we'll be saving when we don't all, because my office, I have to have one too. You do too. Yep, yeah.
I just figured you use fire pits.
There you
Fire
go.
pits and wear
Yeah.
coats.
There you go.
Yeah, so there we go. So anyway, we digress. We definitely can't do nothing, but we will, this is one piece of the puzzle. Thank you all. Thank you, Dave. Thank you.
Very much.
You guys,
Thank you very
It
much.
was great
Very much, it was great to be
presentation.
here with
Very
you.
good.
Any other questions that come up, because I know there will, just don't hesitate to ask.
Of course,
You
of
have a
course.
digital copy on the USB drive? maybe
Excellent.
computer.
Okay.
There are some additional copies of what you have in front of you below.
This one is, we have a few copies?
That is the copy of the full facility report that we prepared. We didn't go into every individual detail of the observations that we made on the building.
Okay.
So if you're interested for any reason, I don't know if you
Yeah.
are or not, but
It might be a good thing for us to highlight the negotiable parts of that.
That
when
would be
you-
good.
Oh, that would be
when you
wonderful.
talk to whoever you're going to talk to, because that would be the document to use.
Okay,
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be
Thank you.
really
Thank you.
helpful. Yeah,
That's very helpful.
awesome.
So you can distribute those or
Me
keep
too.
them in
Want to keep
house.
this in?
One quick question.
Yeah, I mean. take
On
it
the
in
tornado
other
shelter
places, but there's-
part,
I think
you
have
said it's a
to-
new law that passed, or that
In
went
April,
into
it
effect
became
in
a
April?
code requirement for buildings of essential service.
Okay, so it has to be in the
Storm
building,
shelter.
okay.
Yeah, so in this building, it would be required because you have a sheriff component. In the fire station, it would be required because it's a fire station. If it's within 1,000 feet, you could say, I have one, I'll share,
Okay, I see.
if it's on a campus. Which might benefit you, I think it's less than 1,000 feet, so it's probably 500 feet to the fire station. But one of them would need a storm shelter.
Gotcha.
So where is it on this
So
one?
that's something to,
It's either in the
Factor into the cost
PPE
right now.
room, the new construction of the fire, because it's a lot easier to accomplish than it would be within the existing, or it would be in the sheriff's area, one of those
Okay.
two. It might make more sense collectively for it to be in the sheriff's, because everyone in City Hall would have benefit of easy access.
Okay, yeah.
It's just a matter of cost. And you can achieve it a lot of different ways. So we didn't rule it out one or the other, but our first thought was in the PPE. When we do fire stations, we usually put it there.
It makes it easier because it's masonry construction, and masonry is an inherently strong material to use in the construction of a fire shop.
Yeah. The only, in that other reason for the sheriff's area, it doesn't have a space above it. So if we were to put it in the first floor where there's a second floor, the storm shelter has to withstand everything else around it falling on top of it. So the second floor would have to collapse, hit the storm shelter, and survive.
it sounds expensive.
Yeah.
Can be, depends on good
It's good to
planning.
know, though.
Good design keeps it relatively inexpensive. Bad design could
See that?
cost.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you both.
Thank
Very
you.
much.
Very much.
Thank you.
Great presentation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have anything for 4B, discussion of city business?
One quick question,
Yep.
kind of related to sheriff's substation. That building on, let's see here, I think it's on
North Walnut,
North, I think
Yeah.
it's on North Walnut.
there's
The-
two buildings.
Okay. Maybe this is just a question for you then. The Housing Commission building, is that being used for any, does the Housing Commission use it now?
They were just storing things in there. I'll have to check and see what they're doing with it. So they pretty much, what I remember is they always used that, and they had a little police substation in the other building. When I started years ago, that's what was there.
They had an office there with the, when the medical
Yeah.
van would come there once a week. And they would work out of that.
And I think housing actually started storing stuff in both when the police moved out of there. But, you know, they'd have usually just like things for repairs, and that way, because there's a lot of public housing on that end of town, they didn't have to go back to the, you know, like 50 Church or another storage area. But I can check and see how much they're still using it.
Is there, I don't know if it's been something that's been looked into, but is there a world where the sheriff's substation wouldn't be a part of City Hall and there would be any kind of cost savings?
I mean, it's gotta, you gotta remember they gotta have a lot of things in it too, right? So will it fit? It might actually cost more to take an
Retrofit.
existing building, retrofit it, than put them in a, you know, building like this. But I mean, it's a possibility, I suppose.
Okay, it was just
Yeah.
a thought that came
It's-
up during this.
Yeah,
I've
it's
never
not,
thought
they're
about it
not very
before.
big. I'll have to go back and look at them again, haven't been in them in years, but.
Because, yeah, I didn't realize how much space they used. What, you said 4,200 square feet right now?
I thought it was
2,800.
28,
Oh, sorry,
yeah.
okay, yeah. It's less than
2,400, and then they added 400. didn't
But I
they?
mean, you need,
Oh, 20,
like I said, you need, you know, locker rooms, you gotta have showers, you gotta have, you know, a lot of things in there. You gotta
Yeah.
have,
Yeah,
Storm
they gave it
shelter.
28.
yeah, you gotta have minimum radio equipment and stuff like that, so. And that, you know, this was our police station, so it wasn't easy to just move them in there, so.
Good to know, okay.
Anyone else got anything? Do we have any commissioner comments?
This was
Quick
very
meeting.
good.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I'm glad that, you know, I think they do a very good job. Yeah.
I like
They
the
did a
recent-
lot in a short period of time. I'm
They
I'm
did.
impressed, honestly.
Yeah,
No, this was a great presentation. Very clear, straightforward.
yeah, easy to
Strongly
understand.
agree.
Yeah,
Layman's terms.
right, exactly. Yeah, I didn't have to become an architect in order to understand the presentation. That was really great. Well, anybody else? All right, well, with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Support?
Anybody, questions, comments about adjourning? All those in favor?
Okay.
Any opposed? Good night. Thanks, everyone.
Are we still going to recognize Anton?
I
Frankel?
cannot believe I told my wife,
did
maybe I'll be
request
home
it.
by 7.
Yeah, Greg told me this would be a